In ninth grade, I was diagnosed with clinical depression and generalized anxiety disorder. After years of not knowing what was wrong with me and hating myself for not being able to be happy, I used to stay up at night crying myself to sleep because I felt alone. And in 2016 is when it got really bad. I started self-harming and having severe suicidal thoughts. I felt alone and I felt like I could not talk to anyone. Now, skip back up to a few years in my ninth grade year, when I finally got diagnosed. I remember going to my social worker at my school and telling her, if you don't help me, I'm going to kill myself. And that's what it took after years of pain. All it took to get help were those 5 words. I remember going home and wondering why. Why did it take so long to get help, even though I had all the signs? Then I remember teenage and youth depression is usually seen as hormones and as a phase. Even though studies showed that 1 in every 5 teens who suffer from clinical depression every year, 1 in every 5, let that sink in. Now, this isn't really about my story. This is about youth depression in general and how it's overlooked. Depression and bipolar disorder affect 14.3% of youth between the ages of 13 and 17. 14.3, and 31.9% of youth meet the criteria for an anxiety disorder. So tell me why it's being ignored in teens all over the country. Schools claim to care about mental health, but only talk about it for a week. So, why is it only talked about for a week when it should be talked about every single day? In 2017, there were more than 6,000 deaths by suicide in people aged 15 through 24. And in 2019, 8.9% of high schoolers attempted suicide. 8.9%. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but that is a lot because they're not talking about one school. They're talking about out of the entire United States, 8.9% of high schoolers attempted suicide. And 7 in every 100,000 kids aged between 15 through 19 die by suicide a year. So why don't schools talk about it more? Why are we meant to feel alone until we reach our breaking point? Why are we meant to reach our breaking point before we can get help? I personally have been to a mental hospital twice. Both times I was severely considering suicide and was self-harming. While there, my second time, I met 2 girls who completely understood how I felt, and the difference between us was our stories. The first girl, who I'll call Luna, had been there to the mental hospital 5 times, all for ODing. 5 times. She was 15 when we met in that mental hospital. 15 years old and had already been to a mental hospital 5 times for attempted suicide by overdose. Now the other girl, I'll call her R. R had been there for 2 weeks when I got there. She had a bullet wound to her shoulder in an attempted suicide where she missed her heart and shot her shoulder instead. Now she was the nicest person I met there. And I loved how happy she was to be getting better. And she made my time in this mental hospital feel like I wasn't even sick. She was also 15 years old, and tried to kill herself by shooting herself. Now, there are teenagers across the country feeling so alone that they fully believe the only way out is suicide. But suicide is not the answer. I know if I would have killed myself, I wouldn't have met my adorable nephew or met some of my closest friends. I wouldn't have been inspired to sing. And as a survivor, I feel like it's my responsibility to tell you that you are not alone. You are loved, and no matter what, you can get through it. If you are seriously considering killing yourself, call the suicide hotline or 911. And if you have a friend who you know is considering, call 911 or tell an adult. Saving a life is so much more important than feeling like a person is going to be angry with you. We as a community can save so many lives if we just try a little better. Show them that we're there for them. Help them through these tough times. Know the signs. If you know someone who says they're going to kill themselves, don't waste time. Save a life. And by doing that, you can potentially save more than just one life. As a community, we can save so many teenage lives. As a community, we can save so many youth. As a community, we can help teenagers get through this depression instead of killing themselves. As a community, we can save these people. You don't need to be alone. You don't need to feel alone because you're not. We're all here for you. And I promise, as a community, we will help you.